every Saturday. Local chefs create savory and artistic dishes for you to enjoy making in your own home. So add a new recipe to your collection that is sure to be a family favorite here at Scenic Vantage Point.
Welcome to What's Cooking at the Market with Port Huron Hospital. I'm Sarah Tate with Port Huron Hospital Foundation. We're here at Vantage Point Farmers Market in Port Huron with our celebrity chef, Nick Cavis from Cavis Grill. Nick, thanks for coming with us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know that we're making two dishes today, one being hummus and the other pronounce it for me?
Moussaka.
Moussaka.
Moussaka is a classic Greek dish.
Okay.
This recipe's been in my family for years.
Okay.
So I figured I'd share it with you guys. And hummus is something that I've just learned recently, but I found to be a very healthy dish. So I wanted to show that as well.
All right, great. So what are we making first today?
First, we're going to make the moussaka.
Okay.
And we're going to walk you through each step. I want to remind people that when we have recipes, you don't have to follow the recipe exact. The recipe is kind of a guideline. It's not a formula. You can tailor this dish to suit your taste buds.
Okay.
And things like that. So I'll show you how I do it. And then just remember, taste as you go, season as you go, and we'll go through it.
All right, sounds great. So let's talk about what are the first ingredients that are going to go into this, and
Okay.
what are some of the things that you could actually pick up down here at the farmer's market to put in there?
Moussaka is basically a vegetable lasagna, but it also has some ground beef in it as well. It could be ground beef, could be ground lamb, ground pork, ground turkey if you want to make it more healthy,
Okay.
or a combination of some of the meats to add a little flavor.
Okay.
It's like a three-step process when you're making moussaka. The first step would be to get the meat, brown the meat.
Okay.
You set that to the side. Next step would be to take your vegetables, you clean them, you cut them, you grill them, set those to the side, and then you make your bechamel sauce.
Okay.
Once you have all three processes finished is when you put them all together like a casserole and bake it in the oven for 1 hour at 350 degrees.
Okay. All right. So you ready to get started?
Let's get started and I'll show you how I make moussaka.
Sounds good.
Okay, first we're gonna saute the ground beef. So we're gonna take an onion, which I have right here. I'll show you how to chop an onion. The recipe calls for 2 onions. That recipe means either 2 small onions or 1 large one would suffice. Basically, you cut the ends off the onion, so you have a flat surface to lay on.
So there is a proper way to cut an onion.
Onion is probably the most common thing that people cut themselves on when they use knives. So the key when you're cutting anything is make sure your fruit or vegetable is stable. Cut a flat portion of it and keep that on the cutting board.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, we're peeling the onion. Once we peel it, we discard all the extras into the garbage, keep the cutting board clean. I am a proponent of keeping everything organized, and organized means safe in the kitchen,
All right.
especially when dealing with these tools. Then we slice the onion, flat part down, slice the onion into little strips. It doesn't have to be cut perfectly. It says minced, which is a small dice, but it doesn't have to be done perfect.
All right. And it's just 1 full onion that goes into the recipe?
Either 1 large onion
Okay.
or 2 small ones, depending on what you have available. And the
Okay.
kind of onion doesn't really matter too much. It all varies. You're going to saute it off, and by the time you mix it together with everything else, the onion is just a little added flavor.
All right.
So there's half the onion. Now the extra core here, I just cut it right out and discard that as well.
Okay.
And when cutting, sometimes when you're coming down on the downside, it's a little dangerous, so you flip it around. So if your knife slips, it slips away from your fingers. You don't have to worry about any...
we don't want to be taken to Port Huron Hospital emergency
That's
room.
exactly correct.
Okay.
All right, so then we chop all the onions. Once we get the onions chopped, we will throw that in a saute pan.
All right. And how long do we saute it for? Till they're
You
brown
saute
or just soft? Or?
We sweat them. When I say sweating, I mean some of the juices start coming out of the onion.
Okay.
And as soon as you have that done, we'll continue with the rest.
Okay.
So here, we will put the onions in our saute pan.
And do you saute in an olive oil or butter, or what is your
The recipe calls for
recommendation?
butter.
Okay.
I use olive oil.
Yep.
I'm
Olive oil.
Greek, so us Greeks, we like to use olive oil in everything. Everything we can. So
And do
put
you
it on.
it's a little healthier?
It is
don't you
olive
think,
oil. Olive oil is a little healthier
Yep.
than butter. Just in moderation, just enough olive oil so it doesn't stick.
All right.
So I put it in on a medium-high heat. This is a good time to season with some salt and pepper.
Okay.
Every layer when you're cooking, it's a good idea to season on every layer and not just at the end. So I have a little salt here. I just use a little pinch of salt. Salt and pepper helps bring the natural flavors of any vegetables or any food that you're dealing with. So I have a little salt and pepper here.
Okay.
So I put it in. And
just regular salt, not sea salt?
You can
or-
use sea salt,
Okay.
absolutely. What I have here is just regular salt, but sea salt is recommended as well.
Okay.
I tend to use white pepper when I cook, but you can use coarse ground black pepper with this. You can use whatever you like. So I have the vegetables cooking. Now, as they start sweating, which takes a little bit, and while that's doing that, we're gonna pull out the ground beef and get it ready. I just have regular store-bought ground beef. I like to buy 80-20. If you want it to be a little more lean, you can buy 90-10.
Okay.
So I open up the package.
And about how much ground beef are you putting?
2 pounds of ground beef.
Okay.
This is a 4-pound package.
Okay.
So I'll use half of this.
All right.
And we'll put it in here. Now the vegetables are already sweating.
Okay. So you're
Which
just going
means
to
they're-
brown the beef then?
And we brown the beef.
Okay.
We take this, we have all the beef in here.
All right.
Done with this. Okay. Always use a bleach towel to clean your cutting board when dealing with meats. If you have 2 different cutting boards to use for the meat and vegetables, that's also highly recommended.
Okay.
I don't have the luxury to wash my hands here, so I have different gloves that I'm going to use each time I touch beef and vegetables.
Okay. Now, is
So-
this a recipe that your family has?
This
had
is
in-
something that my mother has made
Okay.
from the moment I was growing up. I was
Okay.
actually the little Greek kid in school
Right.
who would have moussaka,
Right.
and everybody else would be eating, peanut butter and jelly
Right.
sandwiches and ham and cheese sandwiches. They made fun of me a little bit, but it's okay. They didn't know what they were missing. So we sit here, and we brown the ground beef and the onions. So while this is browning, we are going to cut the vegetables
Okay.
for the moussaka.
All right.
So next we take the eggplant, which is primary ingredient in moussaka other than the meat and bechamel. So make sure all your vegetables are clean once you get them. I find the best place to find vegetables is the farmer's market. It's locally grown produce, which anytime you can buy anything that's fresh, I think fresh is one of the key things to making good food. It's not just how you prepare it, it's the quality of the product you're using. And luckily we're in an area here in Port Huron where there's a lot of rural communities and a lot of farming and a lot of fresh produce that we can get here that makes the dishes
Yep.
very,
And I know the farmers
very well.
market runs through the 1st of October, so there's a lot of, it's available all the way through
Right.
to early fall. So.
Right. So when I cut each end off of the eggplant, discarded it. Now I'm looking for about 1/2-inch slices. Doesn't have to be exact. If it's not right, as long as it's about 1/2 inch, you
And
don't
the
have to be
eggplant,
exact.
you leave the peel on then, or?
The recipe calls for peeled, but my mother and our family recipe, we don't peel the eggplant, never
Okay.
have. A lot of the nutrients in a lot of vegetables are in the peel, the exterior of it. So
Okay.
as long as it's clean, I don't see any problem in using it. It's not
All
tough,
right.
it's edible.
Okay.
Don't have a problem. So we cut this up and layer it. This is what we're going to layer. This would be like what we would use for a noodle. Instead of a noodle and a lasagna, we're using vegetables.
Okay.
That was going to be the difference if you want to compare it to another dish that you might be more familiar with.
So all the vegetables you're using are the layered levels
Yes,
then? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Now, instead of just eggplant, you can also use potatoes. You can use zucchini. Combination of all of them. My mother's recipe usually calls for, we slice potatoes and we do eggplant.
Okay.
Potatoes are on the bottom because they're a little more firm, and it works well with the dish because when you scoop it out, you have a little firmer base. It doesn't slop around. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to use eggplant, which is more traditional.
Okay.
So we have now our eggplant, and we have to season the eggplant. We seasoned the ground beef. Now we have to season the eggplant, our next layering. So we have a little layer. And if you find any parts that are a little thicker, just feel free to even them out. We can use all these extra pieces as fill-in, as you'll see in a moment.
Okay. What size dish would you normally put this in, Nick?
I believe it's a 9x13 by 2 inch deep.
Okay, so kind of a
somewhere
lasagna
around there. It
type.
doesn't have to be exact, like a lasagna dish.
Okay.
The size of the dish doesn't really matter. You can adjust it, like a lasagna as it would be. It doesn't have to be a certain thickness.
Okay.
It's all what you want. That's
Okay.
the beauty of cooking. It doesn't have to be exactly what somebody else wants.
Okay.
So what I would do is I have a dish here. This is a dish, not exactly 9x13, but this is what I use at the Cavis Grill for
So
making
this is a
lasagna.
dish that you serve at Cavis Grill.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do a Greek night once a month, the first Tuesday of every month. It's actually starting in October. Will be our first day. Every Tuesday, the second Tuesday of every month, we will do a Greek night. Moussaka will be one of the dishes, but we have plenty of dishes that we're working with.
So
All traditional Greek dishes.
Recipe that you or menu that you come up with for
We
that
do.
night?
We have a special menus for
Great.
for that day. So what we do is I use olive oil even to grease my my baking dish here. I need paper towels. And
Paper towels.
yep. Anyways,
Paper
my
towels.
brother took them.
Yep.
So what we do is I grease the baking dish. Paper towels, please. I grease it with olive oil. I spread it with some paper towel, which I'll do here in a second. In the meantime, on my cutting board, I season my eggplant with olive oil, salt, pepper, and I make sure I season both sides. So we have that there. Thank you for this.
Yep.
This is what I used. I clean paper towel, and it spreads the olive oil all around the pan.
If
So
you
I
don't
just
have
spread it
olive
like that.
oil, what's a substitute?
You can use butter
Okay.
or like cooking grease, Crisco.
Okay.
But I like olive oil because it adds another layer of flavor. Even when
Yep.
if you can grease the pan with flavor, more the better. So now you take these. I don't have anywhere to grill them here, but you take them, grill them on your barbecue at home, get a nice golden brown on the edge of these. You know, you season both sides,
Okay.
and then I'll show you what the finished product of that looks like right here.
Now, are you grilling all the vegetables or just the eggplant?
All the vegetables will get grilled to like softened and to the point to where you can eat them right there if you like.
Okay.
Add a little balsamic vinegar,
Okay.
and that's what it'll be. So now we layer the eggplant in the bottom of the dish. We layer the eggplant like this.
Okay.
This is eggplant that I have already prepared. As you can see, a little golden brown and cooked through, and it's seasoned. We layer it through. We take I already have some ground beef here that is already finished.
Okay.
We take the ground beef that's already finished. When the ground beef is finished, this is what it will look like. It'll look a little orange in color. Actually, I haven't finished showing you how to do the ground beef. When the ground beef is burnt, is getting golden, is getting brown in this dish. I forgot to show you how to finish the ground beef, so I'm going to show you right now. You don't have time to finish it browning now, but what you do is you take tomato sauce, which you can buy anywhere in the store. Use half a cup for this recipe. Half a cup of tomato sauce goes right into the recipe, along with half a cup of red wine. And you put that in there as well. That's about half a cup. And you put it down here.
Do you share that with yourself?
I do share it with myself.
Okay,
I have a little shot
perfect.
for myself when I have a little bit to drink. So we
You're
put
a
it
good
in
cook.
here, and now we let it simmer for 25 minutes. Once it simmers for 25 minutes, that is when it looks like this.
Okay.
A little orange,
Okay.
orange color. It's got all the flavor in it.
Okay.
So now what I do is I take the ground beef and I put it in here and I layer it across the eggplant. This is a little cold now because it's been out
Sitting.
here in the fridge for a while.
Okay.
What we'll do is we layer it in the pan.
Okay.
Normally it spreads a little better when it's warm. We spread it around like that. At this time is when we take another opportunity to season.
Okay.
Take some Parmesan cheese,
Okay.
season it through there. We do another layer of eggplant,
Okay.
and we go through there like this. Another layer of eggplant. Through. So now it should seem very similar to everybody. It's like building a lasagna.
Building a lasagna,
Like
exactly.
building lasagna.
Okay.
Some more ground beef. Take all the ground beef,
All right.
spread it around nice and even. And then at this point, season with a little bit more Parmesan cheese.
Okay. And then when do all these other vegetables come into play? Is this all
This is the only vegetables
Okay.
you use for this dish.
All
Some of those
right.
other vegetables are for our next dish
All
that
right.
we're going to prepare.
All right, great.
Now, really quickly, I'll show you how to make the bechamel sauce. Doesn't take any time at all. Bechamel sauce, you put a pan on the stove. We'll move this to the side a little bit.